On this episode of the Hockey Nuts podcast, we take you back to the Wednesday night rivalry game between Wayne's Boston Bruins and Steve's New York Rangers. We also get you caught up with all the news, notes, and injury reports around the NHL, and we get you fired up for the NHL action coming up this week. We'll have all this, plus some college hockey talk, the KHL Minute, and our picks of the week coming up next. This is the Hockey Nuts podcast, Season 1, Episode 12. Recorded on Thursday, October 27th, 2016. The Rangers take Game 1.
Shut up and sit down.
Nick Holden, Ryan McDonough on defense for the Rangers, Derek Stepan, Jimmy Vesey, and Rick Nash up front, and a chance! Right up front, they score! Right off the opening play! Just 10 seconds in. It's Pasternak scoring for the Bruins, walking right around and through and stashing it in. 1-0 the score. Spooner off the glass, could not be settled down by Klein, tumbles down to the ice but brushed it over in a desperation move to Shea.
He just got the tailgate down on that one.
It is Krejci there, lobbed it to Sarnik. Sarnik shot, oh, he scores! Sarnik! And that for him is number 1. He had 20 for Providence last year. Now in his inaugural season in the NHL and in his third game, he has the big one. Kevin Hayes handed it back across. 7th time in the NHL that the Hayes brothers have gone against one another. The Rangers have won all but one of those. Here is a control behind by Foss. Score! From behind the end line, it is Hayes. Tie game. Off of Vesey, but McDonough, then Peary, then Vesey, handcuffed there by the tight checking of Riley Nash, but he pulled free. Peary flipped one that ricocheted off a Bruin stick to the corner. Zibanejad turns it on to Miller. Zibanejad once more. Inside the four-man box is Vesey. Puck comes to Peary, and a shot, he scores!
This guy's lethal on the power play. Brandon Peary, slick acquisition by the New York Rangers in the offseason. Excellent movement by the Rangers. Keep the puck to the outside, good spacing, and there's a wide open opportunity, and Brandon Peary makes no mistake at all. High, hard, short side. That's an NHL goal.
Those who remain will get in the last bit of shouting for the night. The 2 points go to the Rangers. Final score in the game, the Rangers 5 and the Bruins 2.
Highlights courtesy of NBC Sports Network. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hockey Nuts podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Going great, Wayne. Great to be with you this evening.
Long time no see.
Long time no see, that's right.
Steve and I actually got together last night as we record this. We're recording this on Thursday, the 27th, and we got together last night to watch the Rangers-Bruins game, much to my disappointment anyway. It was a bit of a blowout towards the end, and the Bruins started out with a 2-0 lead, but the Rangers came back, scored 5 unanswered goals, and ended up winning the game 5-2.
I think a lot of that's attributable to injuries, Wayne. You have some difficult injuries with your team, and I was very impressed with Zane McIntyre. It's 5-2, but I don't know that you can attribute a lot of those goals against him. I feel like there's just some breakdowns there, and I thought he played very well and made some great saves. That first period, he played really, really well.
Yep, he did. Yeah, I felt he played a fairly decent game, especially for someone who's never started an NHL game before. It was his first career start. And, yeah, I think overall the injuries, particularly to the goalies, David Backes doesn't help, having not him in the lineup. And I think the Rangers caught the Bruins in a bit of a down spot last night.
Yeah, and you played the day before, too. You know, there's some...
Yeah, and they got their butts kicked that night, too. So the Bruins, fortunately, don't play again until, I think it's Saturday, I think is their next game. So that gives them a little bit of time off to try to regroup a little bit and hopefully maybe have Tuukka Rask come back. I don't know what his injury is. They're being very quiet about it in Boston, so we'll find out. But that game aside, before we get going, let me just update everybody on ways you can get in touch with us because we encourage listener feedback, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. We would like to hear from our listeners. We do the show pretty much for fun, but we want to get more fan involvement because, once again, we are just two fans, just big fans of the game, and we want to make this show essentially a voice of the fans.
Super way to say it. I agree with you 100%. I'm no expert. I'm a fan of my team and of the game. It's a game I love very dearly. It's the best game in the world, and I could sit here and talk with you all night about it.
Yep.
I'd like to talk to people who feel the same way.
So with that in mind, if you want to get in touch with our show, first and foremost, we have a website where I've actually got it programmed so that whenever we tweet something out or anytime we put a new podcast up or anything like that, occasionally we'll put blog articles on there. It's at www.thehockeynuts.com. So there's all kinds of stuff going on there. You can email directly to the show. Our email address is feedback@thehockeynuts.com. We also have a voicemail line if you'd like to leave us a voicemail instead. Our voicemail line is area code 919-960-1718. And if you want to tweet me, I'm at Wayne Halley 9, and that's WayneHallee and the number 9. Steve is at sball504man, and our Facebook page is at www.facebook.com/thehockeynuts. And of course, we have our YouTube channel that are currently we're currently live streaming and every time we record the weekly podcast. So you can go to our website or go to the show notes of this episode, and you can get a link to our YouTube channel where you can watch us record this live and interact. If you leave any messages in the chat after we're done recording, we will address any of those messages as well. And that's, of course, off. The podcast listeners don't get to hear that stuff, but if you participate in the live YouTube stream, you can. And there goes my phone. All right, here are the games from the past week of the NHL season. On Thursday, October 20th, there were 11 games around the league. And the first game, the Canadiens beat the Coyotes 5-2. The Hurricanes doubled up the Flames 4-2. The Oilers beat the Blues 3-1. The Bruins doubled up the Devils 2-1. The Ducks beat the Flyers 3-2. The Penguins beat the Sharks by the score of 3-2. The Avalanche shut out the Lightning 4-0. And the Capitals doubled up the Panthers 4-2. Minnesota Wild edged the Maple Leafs 3-2. And in an overtime game, the Kings beat the Sharks 4-3. And in the final game of the night, the Canucks doubled up the Sabres 2-1. On Friday, October 21st, there were 3 games around the NHL. And in the first game, the Islanders edged the Coyotes 3-2. The Blue Jackets beat the Blackhawks by the score of 3-2. And in the final game of the night, the Red Wings beat the Predators 5-3. On Saturday, October 22nd, there were 12 games around the NHL. In the first game, the Rangers doubled up the Capitals 4-2. The Flyers blew out the Hurricanes 6-3. The Canadiens doubled up the Bruins 4-2. The Lightning beat the Senators in convincing fashion 4-1. The Red Wings shut out the Sharks 3-0. The Panthers blew out the Avalanche 5-2. The Devils edged the Wild in overtime 2-1. And in a shootout, the Blackhawks beat the Maple Leafs 5-4. The Predators demolished the Penguins 5-1. The Blue Jackets shut out the Stars 3-0. The Blues edged the Flames by the score of 6-4. And in the final game of the night, in a shootout, the Kings edged the Canucks 4-3. On Sunday, October 23rd, there were 4 games around the NHL. The Rangers edged the Coyotes 3-2. The Oilers shut out the Jets 3-0. The Islanders doubled up the Wild 6-3. And the final game of the night, the Ducks doubled up the Canucks 4-2. On Monday, October 24th, there were just 2 games around the NHL. And in the first game, the Canadiens beat the Flyers 3-1. And in the other game, in a shootout, the Flames beat the Blackhawks 3-2. On Tuesday, October 25th, there were 11 games around the NHL. In the first game, the Hurricanes were doubled up by the Wings 4-2. The Wild blew out the Bruins 5-0 in a shutout. The Devils beat the Coyotes 5-3. The Penguins beat the Panthers 3-2. And in a shootout, the Flyers edged the Sabres 4-3. The Lightning blew out the Maple Leafs 7-3. The Flames beat the Blues 4-1. The Stars edged the Jets 3-2. The Senators shut out the Canucks 3-0. And in overtime, the Sharks beat the Ducks 2-1. And in the final game of the night, the Kings beat the Blue Jackets in overtime 3-2. And on Wednesday, the 26th, there were 4 games around the NHL. The Canadiens edged the Islanders 3-2. The Oilers edged the Capitals 4-1, and the Rangers blew out the Bruins 5-2. And in the final game of the night, the Ducks blew out the Predators 6-1. And that was all of the NHL action over the past week. So, on to the headlines. First and foremost, let's go ahead and talk about our team's performances over the past week. We talked briefly about the Rangers-Bruins games last night. So we know how that one went for Boston. As for the rest of the games that Boston had the rest of the week, the Bruins had a game on Tuesday night against Minnesota and got spanked in that one 5-0. Malcolm Subban got the start in that one and got yanked after he gave up 3 goals. He did give up 1 or 2 soft goals, but overall the team is not playing very well defensively. It was blatantly obvious against Minnesota, and it was pretty evident last night, too. After they jumped out the 2-0 lead, they started getting sloppy on defense, and they gave up 5 straight goals to the Rangers again. And on Saturday night, they lost to Montreal for the 9th straight time at home. The Bruins lost to Montreal on Saturday night. So that is getting pretty old. I can speak for any Bruins fans on that one.
Yeah.
That was not a fun game to watch. It's just, with 9 straight home losses to Montreal, it's not just talent versus talent at that point. Montreal's in the heads of the Bruins at this point. It's nothing more than mental. I mean, granted, Tuukka Rask was not playing in that game. They had Hudobin was in net, I believe, for that one. I can't even remember now. Yeah, it was Hudobin. And then, I don't know, they just didn't play well at all in that game. And going back to last, on the 20th, was their last win, and that was a 2-1 win in New Jersey. Well, actually, in Boston versus New Jersey. So that was the Bruins' last win, and they've had 3 losses since then. So overall, a very disappointing week for Boston Bruins.
Yeah. No, but don't look now. New Jersey's up. In second or third in the Metropolitan? They're doing well. So that's a good win.
Yeah. I mean, it was, they had to do everything they could to win it. But But it's just been a rough week overall with the Bruins, with the poor defensive play on the part of the whole team, the injuries, everything else. The season started out pretty good, but the last 4 games have been pretty ugly. So hopefully, and it doesn't get any easier either. They got a tough schedule coming up. They've got Detroit, they've got Tampa Bay, and I believe, I can't remember who they're playing. We'll get to that later part of the show when we talk about the upcoming week. But the Bruins schedule this upcoming week's not going to make it any easier. So they need those guys back desperately.
Yes.
So on to the Rangers.
Well, we picked up a big win against the Capitals on the 22nd, which was Saturday. And Jimmy Vesey had 2 goals in that game, and I thought they played very, very well. They were down in that game. I believe they were down 2-0. I think they scored 4 unanswered goals. I could be wrong, and that might have been 3. But they, we play well against Washington. It's not a case of, they do pick us off a few times, but I think most of the times we're a confident team against them, and I feel well when we play them. Then we played Arizona back at the Garden on the next night, Sunday, and won that game, which brings us to last night's victory against Boston. And it was a great time. I had a great time. I enjoyed it over there, and
it was fun.
We play you guys again in 2 weeks. And it's going to be at TD Garden. And like I told you last night, I really thought you were going to kick our butts last night. When it was 2-0, I was like, here we go.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, but what did I say after they went up 2-0? I said, we haven't got through the second period yet.
Yeah.
Boston has been horrible in the second period so far this year. And, once again, last night they gave up 3 goals, didn't score any. And they went into the third down 3-2 and then quickly went down 5-2. So, yeah, it got ugly in a hurry. But, yeah, I had a good time even though, we had some nachos, had some wings.
Yeah.
A
lot of Cubs fans.
A lot of Cubs fans because the World Series was going on at the same time. So there was a lot of Cubs fans at the place we were at. So all in all, it was a pretty fun night, even though the Bruins came out on the losing end.
Yeah.
Now Carolina, our local team, also had 3 games last week, and this is the end of the long opening road trip for the Carolina Hurricanes. They got a win in Calgary on the 20th. They lost in Philadelphia 6-3 on the 22nd. That was Saturday night. And on Tuesday night, they lost 4-2 at Detroit. So that finishes their long road trip. And I believe they're sitting at 1-3-1, 1-3-2. I can't remember now. I don't have it up.
I think they're 1-3-2.
1-3-2. Yeah.
I'd bet on that. That's what they are.
So you would have hoped that they would have been able to come out with a better result on the road. It's a tough way to start the season with 7 games on the road, but they've managed 4 points in 7 games. It puts them a little bit behind the 8 ball, but not as bad as they have been the last couple seasons. The last couple seasons, they went 7-8 games before getting their first win. So.
Yeah.
So they have gotten that first win out of the way. Now they open up on Friday night against your Rangers.
Yeah.
And that's their home opener. And it's the last team in the NHL to have their home opener this Friday night.
I guess you can say after tomorrow night, it's up and going everywhere. If
I wasn't working, I would go to the game. But I work until 7. So, and I believe game time 7:30. And it would take me... It would be late first period by the time I got to the game. By the time I get out of work, get home, get changed, get on the road again to Raleigh. So, so it would, I don't know. It'd be a fun game to go to. Well, I keep saying one of these years I want to go to a home opener because the crowds tend to be a little bit more lively and certainly a bigger crowd.
Yeah.
And against your Rangers, there'll be plenty of Rangers fans in the house for sure.
There will be. Tomorrow night will be a lot of Rangers showing up that come there every single time we play. So,
So needless to say, I will be watching the game on TV at the very least.
Yes.
And I think that's pretty much guaranteed for you.
That's guaranteed. I'm not going to the game, so I will be in front of a TV set parked there for 2 hours.
Yep.
Watching the game.
So, okay, well, that's it for the brief summary of our team's games of the week. So let's go into talking about the transactions of the week. And we're not going to go into details in terms of guys getting called up, sent down, that kind of stuff. But we will talk about signings. And there really was only one.
That's right.
This week. And that was, it actually happened earlier today. Hampus Lindholm signed a 6-year contract with the Anaheim Ducks on Thursday that runs through the 21-22 season. Financial terms were not released, but TSN reported that it's an average annual value of $5.25 million. I'm sorry. Lindholm, who had 10 goals and 18 assists in 80 games last year, and that was his 3rd year with Anaheim. He was named to Team Sweden for the World Cup as a replacement for Red Wings' Nicholas Kronwall, but did not play himself during the tournament. He was the number 6 overall pick in the 2012 draft. He has 92 points in 236 games so far in his young NHL career. So I believe he's the last restricted free agent to get signed. Well, there still is Jacob Trouba.
Yep, I was just about to say Jacob Trouba is the only one I know of. I think everybody else is signed.
Yeah, and Trouba, that's not going to happen until he gets traded. So
yeah,
I would imagine that as some teams start falling behind in the standings, someone is going to get desperate and do a sign and trade for Trouba.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's move on to injuries. And this one will take a while because there will be a lot of injuries.
There's a ton of them.
Yep. So let's start with Boston Bruins forward David Backes had elbow surgery on Monday and he'll miss at least the next 2 games, which included last night's game. General Manager Don Sweeney said Wednesday. David Backes underwent the removal of his, I can't say this, olecranon bursa from his elbow. I don't even know what that is on Monday the 24th. Apparently it's pretty minor if he's only going to miss a couple games. His condition will be updated after the weekend. Backes signed as a free agent on July 1 and has 2 goals and 4 points in 5 games so far this year. The Bruins recalled forward Austin Czarnik from Providence to replace him, and he actually scored a goal last night for Boston.
Played very well.
Yep, he
had a big goal.
He had a pretty decent night. So, but in his NHL action before getting called up this week, he's been -3 with 1 shot on goal in 2 games, and that was before he got hurt. See, he got hurt in the second game. And then once he became healthy, they sent him down rather than have him play. All right, another Bruins injury. Actually, a couple of them. Boston Bruins goaltender Anton Khudobin is expected to miss approximately 3 weeks with an upper body injury. Khudobin is 0-2 with a 4.10 goals against average and .849 save percentage so far this season. It's kind of ugly. That's not very good numbers.
Yeah.
Malcolm Subban was recalled on an emergency basis from Providence. Of the American Hockey League on Monday after the Bruins' #1 goalie, Tuukka Rask, missed Boston's 4-2 loss against the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday with an undisclosed injury. On Tuesday, the Bruins recalled goaltender Zane McIntyre on an emergency basis from Providence to back up Khudobin. So now the Bruins are running with 2 American League goalies as both of their primary goalies are hurt right now.
Let me ask you a question, Wayne.
Yeah.
Any chance that Zane McIntyre would wrest away this #2 slot from Anton Khudobin?
Well,
his performance.
There's always a chance. I mean, a lot will depend on how he plays while Hudobin's gone. And it appears at this point that McIntyre has wrested the backup job away from Subban at this point.
Yeah.
So
I think so too, because and you know why? Because they started him last night and not Subban.
Yeah, Subban was pretty shaky in the game on Tuesday against Detroit, and he got yanked, and then they put McIntyre in, and then they went straight to McIntyre, and he ended up playing the whole game last night. He gave up 5 goals, but I would say 3, probably 4 of them were not his fault at all. It was blown coverage by the Bruins defense.
Yeah.
So
I think the only goal that was his fault was when Kevin Hayes banked it off his leg into the net because he wasn't secure on the post.
Yep.
And other than that, I thought Zane McIntyre played a great game. And if he your starter in the next game?
I wouldn't be surprised. I think so. If I were coach, I would put him back in there. Yeah.
If he wins the next game or two, say he plays the next 2 games and wins for Boston, will there be any? I guess that's what I'm saying. Do you feel that's enough to prove himself?
Well, there's only one problem with that. If Khudobin were to be relegated to the #3, they would probably want to send him down, which means he'd have to pass through waivers.
Pass waivers, okay. Yeah.
So I doubt in the long term that that's going to happen. I think they're going to go back to Rask and Khudobin, and McIntyre and Subban are both destined to be sent back down.
I see.
So
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So yeah, unless Khudobin completely, if that 4.10 and 849 continues to be his numbers for the year, they will eventually stop playing him, and they will make a change there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have to pass him through waivers, who's going to pick up a goalie that's putting up those numbers?
That's true.
So he would probably make it down. He would probably pass through waivers. All right, to another goaltender that's hurt. Anaheim Ducks goalie Jonathan Bernier was replaced by John Gibson at the beginning of the second period against the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday after sustaining an upper body injury. Bernier, making his second start of the season, allowed 1 goal and 11 shots in the first period, and the Ducks trailed 1-0 at the time. So Bernier's their backup goalie anyway. I believe Gibson is the starter there. So
that's right.
So that is a kind of a minor injury for Anaheim, but certainly something to keep an eye on because now they're going to have to pull up an American League goalie to back up Gibson. And to another team that has lost both their goalies, the Los Angeles Kings goalie Jeff Zatkoff is expected to miss no more than a week after he injured his groin during practice on Saturday. Zatkoff was helped off the ice and later placed on injured reserve, meaning he cannot play for at least 7 days from the date of the injury. And then Kings coach Daryl Sutter said, "I think a week is pretty much normal for that kind of injury," he told LA Kings Insider on Monday. It's not extended or anything like that. Goalie Peter Budaj made 22 saves in a 4-3 shootout win against the Vancouver Canucks on Saturday in his replacement. Budaj has started the past 2 games for the Kings, who are also without their starter, Jonathan Quick, who could miss 3 months or more with a lower body injury. Zatkoff is now 0-3 with a 4.38 goals against average and .839 save percentage in the 3 games he's played this year.
Ooh.
That's rough.
That's not good either.
No, he signed with the Kings as a free agent on July 1 after playing parts of 3 seasons with the Penguins. The Kings called up Jack Campbell from the Ontario Reign of the American Hockey League on Saturday to back up Budaj. So now the Kings are going with 2 American League goalies, although Budaj's got quite a bit of NHL experience. I remember him from his days in Colorado.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has. He's been around for a while. I'm trying to. Is it just the Colorado he played at, or didn't he play? I don't recall where he played before that.
Yeah, I don't have his numbers up.
Yeah, but he's been around for a while.
Yeah. Dallas center Jason Spezza left practice Monday because of an undisclosed injury. Ruff said. Spezza was injured during a 3-0 loss to the Columbus Blue Jackets on Saturday. Ruff said, "I don't know how long Spezza could be out. That was a surprise for me." So I didn't see, I believe he is still not playing for Dallas. At this point, he's day-to-day.
Mm-hmm.
Another Dallas forward, right wing, Ales Hemsky, didn't play on Tuesday because of a groin injury. Hemsky made his season debut against the Blue Jackets after coming off injured reserve Saturday because of a groin injury. He had 1 shot on goal and 25 shifts on a line with Tyler Seguin, and Jamie Benn. Spezza and Hemsky join an injured list that includes left wing Patrick Sharp, who's on injured reserve because of a concussion, and right wing Patrick Eaves, who's questionable after sustaining a lower body injury against the Kings on October 20th.
Right.
He skated by himself Saturday but didn't practice Monday. Yuri Hudler, who's also been battling an illness since October 15th, skated on his own on Monday, but Ruff said he needs 3 or 4 days of practice before playing a game. The Stars are also missing centers Cody Aiken with a knee injury and Matthias Janmark with also a knee injury, who began the season on injured reserve. With Hemsky out and Spezza questionable, the Stars likely will call up another player from Texas of the American League. They've used 25 different players in their first 5 games, with the latest center Gamal Smith making his debut on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So you think the Bruins are having rough injury issues. Dallas isn't missing any goalies, but man, what are we counting there? 6 forwards?
6 players.
6 forwards, all with injuries.
Yep. Terrible.
So that's
Yep.
pretty rough times for Dallas right now. Okay, Carolina Hurricanes left wing Jeff Skinner is day-to-day because of an upper body injury. Skinner, tied with Lee Stempniak for the team's scoring lead with 6 points, missed practice on Monday. He'll join the Hurricanes on their trip to play the Red Wings on Tuesday. He actually didn't end up playing.
Mm-hmm.
He's okay. Hurricanes coach Bill Peters told the Hurricanes website he's just waiting on some results. He'll come on the trip in Detroit and play, and if not, we'll shuffle the deck a little bit. Skinner had 1 assist in a 6-3 loss at Philadelphia on Saturday. He was assessed a roughing penalty in the 3rd period, but did not appear to be injured on the altercation with Flyers forward Wayne Simmons. But yeah, he didn't end up playing on Tuesday. So So at this point, I believe he's also day-to-day.
Yeah, I think he's going to be playing tomorrow night.
Yeah, it sounded like this fairly minor injury. So
yeah, I think he'll start. He'll be playing tomorrow night in the home opener against us.
All right.
Best wishes to Jeff Skinner.
Yep. Well, Arizona Coyotes goaltender Mike Smith is out week to week with a lower body injury. Coach Dave Tippett said following the morning skate at Madison Square Garden in advance of the game against the New York Rangers last Sunday. Tippett said Smith, who was injured in the 3rd period of a 7-4 loss at Ottawa last Tuesday, is home in Arizona and will not be rejoining the Coyotes on their season-high 6-game road trip, which concludes at Philadelphia on Thursday. That would be tonight. However, Tippett said the severity of Smith's injury isn't as significant as the Coyotes first thought. Tippett couldn't give a timeline on when he'll return. but he doesn't think it'll be long before he gets back on the ice. Goalie Luis Dominique has been filling in for Smith.
Yeah, Domingue played against us the other night. He started in goal.
Domingue, okay.
I think they pronounce it Domingue, Wayne.
Domingue, okay.
But I'm no linguist.
Yeah, well,
and if
it
looks
looks
wrong, I'm sorry about that.
It looks French, and I should know it.
Yeah. I might be wrong, Wayne.
No, I think you're right. Looking at the name again, Domingue, I think is the correct name. Sorry to him if he's listening.
Yeah.
New York Islanders defenseman Ryan Pulock will miss 4 to 6 weeks because of a lower body injury. Pulock left a 3-2 win against the Arizona Coyotes on Friday during the first period. It was his first game of the season, and he had 5 shifts and played 3 minutes 57 seconds. Yeah. So Pulock is probably a 7th defenseman for the Islanders, but anytime you lose a D, it's definitely worth noting.
That's right.
All right, so there were a number of other injuries that didn't come across our news feed that I found on an injury list, and I'll just go ahead and list those. We don't know too much details of how long these guys are going to be out and when they're going to be back, but I'll just go ahead and list them. Vancouver's Chris Tanev has a lower body injury. Pittsburgh's Connor Sheary has an eye injury. He's day-to-day. Michael Raffle from Philadelphia, he's got an abdominal injury. He's week to week. Derek Dorsett from Vancouver has got a shoulder injury. Alex Burrows from Vancouver, a neck injury. Zach Redmond from Montreal has got a foot injury. And Cody Bass of Nashville has an upper body injury. And from the Rangers, Pavel Buchnevich has been suffering back spasms, and you probably could give some insight on that one.
Yeah, he's out. He's on the injured reserve. So obviously they're more serious of back spasms. You know, Kreider's going through back spasms as well, but Kreider is day to day, and I believe he is playing or practicing with the team. Not sure with Buchnevich on injured reserve if that's the case. So the last word I heard was that you know, for the time being he will be replaced and is not playing currently.
Okay. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yes.
Okay, well that concludes our suspensions unless I missed some and you got some.
Yeah, no, the only other one was the quirky weird thing that happened with the Nashville Predators, where several players were pulled from 2 games in a row.
Oh, that's right. I saw that. Yeah.
They were suffered food poisoning.
Yep.
And it was zeroed down to the trip in the game they played against the Detroit Red Wings earlier in the week. And I actually watched a broadcast where a guy stood up and said, no, those guys ate bad chicken soup. They zeroed it down to the chicken soup that they ate in Detroit, and I since haven't heard anything on that story, so I don't know whether that was an accurate. I don't know that anybody had any chicken soup from the dinner to analyze, so I don't know whether they could prove that it was the chicken soup. But bottom line is that's what they believe that it was. I believe most of those players have come back.
Are they suspecting foul play in that one?
I doubt that very seriously.
Because they were on the road, were they not?
They were.
Yeah.
They were on the road in Detroit. Yeah, they were at the Joe. And,
Yeah, I don't know. Something smells a little fishy to me. Those Red Wings and their Red Wing supporters.
Yeah. Oh. That's all I heard about it.
Okay.
And that's the only other story I had.
Yep, good. All right, well, let's move on to suspensions. There was a couple of suspensions in the past week. First and foremost, Philadelphia Flyers forward Dale Weiss has been suspended for 3 games. He actually has since come back without pay for an illegal check to the head of Anaheim Ducks defenseman Corbinian Holzer during the NHL game number 52 in Philadelphia on Thursday, October 20th. So that was a week ago. The National Hockey League's Department of Player Safety announced last Friday. The incident occurred at 7:35 of the second period. I did not see video of that hit, but I would be willing to bet that Dale Weiss is a repeat offender. I remember him from his time in Montreal, and there are a lot of Bruins fans that aren't happy with Dale Weiss's play.
Oh, yeah.
Especially in games against the Bruins.
They seem to attract those guys in Philadelphia like flies. I
think they like to have those guys.
You think about the number of players over the years They used to have Daniel Carcillo.
Yep.
That guy. They had the Rangers picked up both these guys actually. Asham. What was his first name? I can't remember.
Aaron Asham.
Aaron Asham.
Yep.
Both of them.
Yep.
They were dirty guys. Philadelphia has a bunch of them. You want to know the team I despise the worst in the NHL? It's the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah.
But they shoot themselves in the foot. So let's just, they're good at that and let it keep happening. That's fine with me.
Yep, I have that same love-hate relationship with the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, I love to hate the Montreal Canadiens. So, actually, it's not so much the players; it's their damn fans. They feel like they're entitled to the Stanley Cup every year, no matter how good or bad that team is. Drives me absolutely nuts.
Didn't we have a great discussion about that last night? And I was in tears laughing so hard.
And I've got family that are Canadiens fans too, so it makes it even more fun to hate them. So, yeah. So
I know what you're saying.
All right. With that said, anyway, the other suspension, or actually it's going to be a pending suspension at this point, was announced today. Boston Bruins forward David Pastrnak will have a hearing with the NHL Department of Player Safety on Friday, which is tomorrow, for a hit on New York Rangers defenseman Dan Girardi during the game at Madison Square Garden on Thursday. The incident occurred at 10:55 of the second period. Pastrnak received a minor penalty for an illegal check to the head. Girardi left the game briefly but returned. The following grounds are being considered for supplemental discipline: illegal check to the head. However, the Department of Player Safety retains the right to make adjustments to the infraction upon review. You and I talked about that hit quite long time after it happened last night.
Yeah.
And
I think we were both in agreement that we didn't know that was whether it deserved a suspension. I mean, I think the penalty may have been enough.
Yeah, at full speed, it didn't look to be as bad, but when you slowed it down, that's when you see that Girardi's head was a first point of contact, and that's something the NHL has been going after for guys. It shows that he briefly left his feet at just as he was arriving at the hit and made the head the first point of contact. So my guess is and Pasternak's not that kind of a player, or he hasn't been up to this point. He's only been in the league a couple of years. He's more of a finesse style player. My guess, because he's a first offender, that he'll probably just get a game.
Well, maybe. I still don't think he launched himself. I think he had his right foot stayed on the ice the entire time. I do not think that was a malicious play. It was just a good hard check, a good hard hit. Yeah. And the referee, in his judgment, called roughing on it. I think that's good enough. Let's get back to the game and play hockey. I liked, me, I like seeing good hits, and Girardi was in a position where that happened, and that's all. That's it.
Well, he was in the process of trying. A puck had gotten deflected straight up into the air, and he was in the process of reaching up to catch the puck and bring it down. And it was just as he had caught the puck, right after he caught the puck is when he got hit. Yeah. So he didn't really see the hit coming. So, we'll see. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Hockey play. I thought it was a good hit. So I'm on your side on that one. I don't think the guy deserves a game suspension, but if that's, so be it. That's what the NHL says. Any more than that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have more about that in the next podcast when we talk about the verdict of that, because that's in the future now. We can only speculate at this point.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to another category, our milestones and records. Minnesota Wild forward Zach Parise scored his 300th NHL goal on Sunday against the New York Islanders. Parise scored off of a 4-2 rush, a minute 15 into the second period to give the Wild a 1-0 lead. He took a pass from defenseman Matt Dumba and beat Islanders goalie Thomas Greiss with a wrist shot from the left circle. The 32-year-old scored 194 goals in 7 seasons with the Devils before moving to the Minnesota Wild. He's played in 767 NHL games and is the 196th player to score 300 goals. So, good moment for him.
Very good moment. Minnesota loves him. That's his home, and he's very happy to be playing there.
Yep.
So... And he probably will be there for many years to come.
I would imagine he's going to finish his career with them for sure.
I think you're right.
And an even more amazing note, Florida Panthers forward Jaromir Jagr scored his 750th NHL goal last Thursday, becoming the third player in history to do so. Jagr, who scored his first goal of the season, 14-10 into the second period of a 4-2 loss to the Washington Capitals at BB&T Center, trails Wayne Gretzky and Gordie Howe on the all-time list. Boy, it puts him in pretty good company, doesn't it?
Yeah, God, unbelievable.
He said after the game that's nice, but I'd rather win, so it's kind of tough.
Yeah.
In 633 games with the Panthers, the Devils, the Bruins, the Stars, the Flyers, the Rangers, the Capitals, and Penguins, Jagr has 1,870 points. He's 44 years old and is playing in his 23rd NHL season. He's 17 points behind Mark Messier for second on the all-time scoring list. And, of course, Gretzky is first with 2,857.
He will never catch Wayne Gretzky.
No, he won't catch Wayne.
He won't catch Wayne Gretzky in goals either.
No. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Jagr is sixth in assists with 1,120 behind, 15 behind Paul Coffey for fifth all-time. No, he absolutely won't catch Wayne Gretzky, but I would venture he will get to be second all-time behind Gretzky.
Yeah, you mean catch Gordie Howe?
No. Well, he's already caught Gordie Howe.
In terms of goals.
No. Yeah, he'll well.
See, I
don't think he can catch Gordie Howe. That's 50 goals from now.
Yeah, I think he wants to. I really do. It's going to depend on if he has, he's going to need a 20-goal season. If he puts up 6 or 7 goals or 10 goals this year, it's going to be tough for him,
He's going to need to play this season, next season, and the season after to have any shot at catching Gordie Howe.
Then I agree with you. He will. He will catch Gordie Howe if he does that.
And that puts him at 47 years old. I just don't see that happening.
That's like Chris Chelios.
I mean, who knows? I mean, he's a different kind of guy. He's a different kind of player. He may be able to hang with the young kids that long, but But I don't see it. I mean, at this point, he's playing season to season. So
right.
But
You're right.
Kudos for him anyway for he will get second all time in points. He's only 7. He'll do that later this season.
Yeah.
He's only 17 behind Messier for second all time. So
yeah.
I do see that happening. Okay, now the next segment is NHL debuts. I only have one name on this list, but we were talking about it before the podcast. I would like to find a resource on the internet, and I don't know if any listeners can help us with that, that has a list of players who have made their NHL debut. Just a straight up list, the debut and the day they did it. We were looking online before we did the podcast, and we haven't been able to find one. We were able to find a list on Hockey Reference of all the players who have made their NHL debuts this season. Mm-hmm. There's currently 51, by the way, players that have made their NHL debuts this year so far. Mm-hmm. But that list does not include the actual day that it happened. So the only name I have on this NHL debut list, of course, is Zane McIntyre, who made his debut earlier this week in Boston in goal. But I do know that there are probably others. We just haven't found a reliable place to go that has a list of them yet. So if any of you out there listening can help us with that, we would greatly appreciate it. So let's move on to some other interesting stories that have happened over the past week. NHL is having a month-long celebration or month-long. It's a joint initiative founded by the NHL and the NHLPA with Hockey Fights Cancer, and it began this week with programming and club participation between now and November 18th. I'm sorry. The initiative is a program of the NHL's U.S. and Canadian charitable foundations, which, along with NHL supporters and fans, have donated more than $16 million to support national and local organizations involved in cancer care and research. Lavender, the official color of Hockey Fights Cancer, representing all cancers, will be featured prominently throughout the campaign. This season, the NHLPA and NHL, along with the NHL League Foundation, are partnering with 5 national cancer organizations, including 2 new ones, to help raise awareness around several forms of cancer, including pediatric, blood, prostate, and pancreatic. The NHL Foundation will make a donation to each of the 5 national partners, who are Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, the Movember Foundation, the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, and St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. All 30 NHL member clubs are supporting the initiative by designated one home game as the official Hockey Fights Cancer in-arena awareness night, featuring unique programming and partnerships with local cancer organizations in all 30 NHL markets, and a $250,000 donation will be distributed by the NHL's U.S. and Canadian charitable foundations locally and nationally in conjunction with this year's initiative. We've already seen several of those events around the league, and most of the teams are at the very least doing they're wearing the lavender jerseys during warm-ups. I know you've seen a few of those around.
Yes, I sure have.
In fact, the Bruins have already had their Hockey Fights Cancer night.
Yeah, the Blackhawks story I seen on Brandon Ott, Otte, on the Hockey Fights Cancer night in Chicago. He's a young kid and a fan that is battling cancer, a Chicago Blackhawks fan. He was honored as part of the Hockey Fights Cancer night on October 24th. He got to drop the ceremonial first puck between Jonathan Taves and Mark Giordano, and his face is lit up in the picture, so he's very happy about that. I would be happy too, but more importantly, what Chicago is doing, and for this young fella Brandon Ott to be able to be honored in such a way, I think is just a great, another great statement that we as fans and the NHL community in general makes each year with Hockey Fights Cancer.
Yep. Yeah, it's a real good thing. So, and a lot of the teams that are doing the practice jerseys, what they're doing is the team wears the jersey on ice, and then they auction off the jerseys after the game, and all the proceeds are going to help these organizations. So it's a real great cause.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And one thing we haven't talked about this week or in this podcast, and in fact was pretty much the biggest event going on this week around the NHL, was the Heritage Classic in Winnipeg. Yeah. And along with a regular season NHL game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers, which the Oilers won 4-0, they had a alumni game the day before. That game was on Saturday afternoon, and Teemu Selanne was the big star of that game. He had a 5-point afternoon with two goals in the game, opening and closing the scoring on penalty shots, and the second was the game winner in the final seconds, and he had 3 assists in between those 2 goals, and that lifted the Winnipeg Jets alumni to a 6-5 victory against a team of former Edmonton Oilers before a huge crowd of 31,317 at the 2016 Rogers NHL Heritage Classic alumni game at Investors Group Field in Winnipeg. And I watched that, and it just brought back so many memories from my childhood because, a lot of the players that played in that game were guys that I grew up watching as they were players and at the time. And, I was just a kid watching them grow up. But some of the names that I remember seeing that I was very pleased to see. Of course, you had Selanne, who just retired a couple of years ago, but he was on a line with Dale Hawerchuk, which was very exciting for Winnipeg fans because Hawerchuk left a season or 2 before Selanne got there, and a lot of Winnipeg fans would have loved to seen Hawerchuk and Selanne play on a line together. But they didn't get that chance until this past weekend. They got to see that.
Yeah.
Doug Smale, Laurie Boschman, Eddie Olchuk, Chris King, Brian Mullen, Andrew McBain, Mo Mantham, Mario Marawa, Ron Wilson, Thomas Steen, Teppo Numminen, Daniel Berthiaume, Darren Shannon, Bob Asensa, Mike Eagles, and Dave Babbage played for Winnipeg. But the names that played for Edmonton were just mind-boggling.
Phenomenal.
Oh, awesome. Just some of the names. Wayne Gretzky, Paul Coffey, Glenn Anderson, Issa Tikkanen, Mark Messier, Ken Linsman, BJ McDonald, Craig McTavish, Kelly Buchberger, Yari Curry, Craig Simpson, Dave Lumley, Randy Gregg, Charlie Huddy, Steve Staios, Mike Krushelniski, Dave Semenko, Craig Muni, Bill Ranford, Curtis Joseph, Dwayne Rollison, Willie Lindstrom, Ryan Smith. A lot of those names, if you were a fan of hockey growing up in the 80s, you know very well most of those names because a lot of those guys were on that great team that won 5 Stanley Cups in the 80s and early 90s.
And I missed the alumni game, Wayne, and I missed it, but I had to go out of town Saturday, so There was no way for me to watch it.
Well, there is a way. You just have to come over to my house. I've got it on my I've got it on my DVR, and
I made up for
it. And I'm not.
I sat at the TV on Sunday, and I watched every second of the Heritage Classic and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yep. I love those outdoor games. I really do.
Oh, yeah.
It's
and that's a great place for the game. They got it before it really got cold. But, the Edmonton, the Winnipeg crowd is they sold the place out. It was electric atmosphere. And from all accounts, it was a great week. Everybody to the man said they had a blast in Winnipeg for the week.
Yep. Yeah, it was a fun weekend. Definitely fun to be a spectator for all that stuff. One of these days, I'll have to make my way to one of these outdoor games because it looks like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
you know, the one thing that comes to my mind, who's the guy on Wheel of Fortune?
Pat Sajak.
Pat Sajak is a huge NHL fan. He's a Washington Capital fan.
Oh, okay.
And he has never missed the Winter Classic. He's never missed a game. He's been to every one. No matter where it is, he flies to the game and watches it, whether his Capitals are playing or not. So kudos to Pat Sajak if he downloads our show.
Cool.
It's probably doubtful. But he's just saying share that kinship.
Well, that's good. Yeah, isn't he Canadian? Is he Canadian?
Yeah, he could be. I don't know.
Okay. Seems to me, I think I remember somewhere that he's Canadian, which would explain why he's got such a love for hockey. But okay, and in the last NHL-related story of the week, I'm noted on here that General Fanager has died. We missed that story last week. I found it a couple hours after we recorded last week. That website that us as fans and many GMs actually were using to refer to for information on NHL salary cap stuff. The website has ceased operations. Yeah, Tom Paraska, who is the founder of General Manager, just recently got hired by the new NHL Las Vegas team in a role related to what he was doing with General Fanager, I presume. Certainly an analytics guy for sure. He got a job with them, and right after getting that job, he put on a message on the General Fanager website saying, "It is with sadness that we close the doors to this incredible, fun, passion project. We launched General Fanager in May of 2015. Along the way, we've come to serve and get to know an incredible base of users that we'll greatly miss. For anyone that ever helped with the site, for those that pitched in on busy days, to those that reported site errors or helped track down details, or those that promoted our work, or just simply those that routinely typed generalfanager.com into the address bar. Thank you." From Tom Paraska, founder and of General Fanager. So that left a hole in the whole internet research business. But I was able to find an alternative, and they've actually been around for a little while. Their website wasn't as robust as General Fanager, but they have made a lot of improvements in the last weeks and months. The site is capfriendly.com. So if you were going to General Fanager on a regular basis for salary cap information, go to capfriendly.com. They have taken over as my primary source for NHL salary cap information. And the tool that General Fanager that they used to have, we talked about it in one of our episodes, the expansion draft tool that they had that allowed you to do a mock expansion draft to determine, to take a guess at who might end up getting drafted by that expansion team. Well, that tool has now come alive or come back to life on capfriendly.com. And it looks almost identical to the original one, too. So I was very, very happy to see that one come back.
That's such good information, Wayne. Thank you very much for that. And you and I had a blast doing that expansion tool. I think it was podcast 4, maybe 3, where you and I played out that expansion tool to the hilt.
Yep.
With every team, and it is fun. It is. I spent hours with that tool, and so. I'm glad that they did not kill that.
Yep.
That is part of the scene still at.
And I spent a little bit of time playing with the tool at Cap Friendly to make sure that it was okay. and it works just as well as the one at General Fanager. So kudos to the cap-friendly folks who have brought that tool back to life. And they got some other stuff too it's a pretty cool site. They've got some other stuff that they track guys with the entry-level contracts that are in risk of sliding from one year to the next if they play more than 10 games. They've got a tool that tracks those players, and they've got a bunch of other resources. It's a really good site for salary cap and related information.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look ahead to the next week. Boston has 3 games coming up this week. The first game is at Detroit on the 29th, and then they play at Florida on the 1st, and then at Tampa Bay on the 3rd. All 3 games are against playoff teams from last year, so I'm a little worried for the Boston Bruins on what their outlook is going to be this week. The Carolina Hurricanes have games. Of course, they got their home opener against the Rangers tomorrow night. That's Friday. And then they play another home game versus Philadelphia on Sunday, and then at Ottawa on the 1st.
Yep.
And then the Rangers have 4 games this upcoming week.
4 games, and all of them tough. All of them difficult. I think the home opener tomorrow night, I feel funny about it. And, maybe things will go fine. I think Antti Ranta is probably going to start in that game. My guess would be they'll give Henrik Lundqvist a rest. But that, home openers are always, they're never, don't go in there being overconfident, that's for sure. And then we got to play Tampa Bay at the Garden this time. And then we play St. Louis at the Garden and Edmonton at the Garden. So we have 3 home games, but those 3 teams right now are knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, they are. They're all playing well.
So we've got a tough week. And if we can pick up 2 wins this week, I'm very happy with that.
Yep. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, as for other games going on around the league this week, other notable games that I definitely want to make sure I watch. Pittsburgh against Philadelphia Saturday night. That should be a good one. Toronto versus Montreal again Saturday. That one will be good just simply because of the rivalry that Toronto and Montreal share. I would imagine the way Montreal's playing right now that's probably going to end up a win for them, but you just never know. When those 2 teams get together, it's always a ruckus crowd and a very good, very fun, entertaining game to watch. Nashville and San Jose are also playing Saturday. That should be a good game against 2 very strong teams. And on Tuesday, the Oilers and Leafs play. I put that one there because it's another game against Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, 2 rising stars in the league. And then
that's a thriller.
Yeah, that should be a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
Just entertaining in an offensive way.
That's right. I won't miss that.
And then Ducks-Kings play again each other Tuesday night. That's another big rivalry on the West Coast. Not sure I'll watch that one because the game is probably going to start at 10 o'clock at night, our time. But it'll definitely be a good game worth watching if you're in the Western time zone. And then on Wednesday, Detroit plays Philadelphia in next week's rivalry, NHL rivalry night. And that should be a good game against 2 playoff teams from last year.
That's right. And I hope Detroit just takes runs them through the boards.
Yep. And then the last comment I've got on the upcoming week, when I was looking over the schedule, there are no games at all on Monday night. And I want to say to the NHL, what is the deal?
Yeah.
No games? You can't even put 1 game for us?
Yeah.
I get it. It's Halloween, and everybody wants to be out trick-or-treating, but you're leaving me no choice. I'm going to have to sit on my front porch and pass out candy because I've got no games to watch.
That's right. I'll be watching Frankenstein movie reruns.
Yeah, right. I'm like, come on. I get it. The All-Star break, we're not going to have any games. And between the regular season and the playoffs, we're not going to have any games. But other than that, there should be games every single night.
Yeah, we've got this ghoul on our front door. And, if you press the button, it says something, The best one is, I turn back if I were you.
Nice.
And he laughs. Anyways, that's my little segue into humor. But yeah, I get my wife every morning on that thing.
Nice.
That's what I'm going to be listening to all night Monday night.
Yeah, I got to find something to do. Maybe I'll rake leaves or something Monday night. Who knows? without any NHL. Or maybe I can watch some AHL games. Who knows? Maybe they're taking Monday night off too. All right. Well, let's move on to the NCAA Minute. I had a couple of major just one major story anyway, and then we'll talk about the top 10 rankings for the week. There is a video that's been circulating online, and I've got a link to it in the show notes that if you're a hockey fan, you've got to see. And I don't know, Steve, if you had a chance to look at it yet or not, because I just sent you the link.
Yeah, you told me about this. I did not know about this, Wayne. Once again, you're brilliant.
All right. So on the night that the University of Michigan celebrated the 20th anniversary of its 1996 NCAA National Championship, 3 former Wolverines, including longtime NHL players Marty Turco and Brendan Morrison, scored consecutively in the Scoro promotion during the second intermission of a game against Michigan Tech last Friday. Turco, who had 275 wins and a 2.36 goals against average and .910 save percentage in 11 seasons with the Dallas Stars, Chicago Blackhawks, and the Boston Bruins from 2000 to 2012, scored first from between the hash marks of the opposite side of the ice. So basically about a 150-foot shot. Morrison, a forward who scored 200 goals in 934 NHL games with 7 different teams, followed Turco by scoring from the same spot. And then former Michigan forward Mike Legg, best known for his famous lacrosse-style shot against the University of Minnesota in the 96 NCAA tournament when he picked up the puck on his stick blade and carried it into the net, then completed the hat trick by picking the puck up off the ice with the blade of his stick and shooting it lacrosse-style into the roughly 8 to 12-inch wide hole in the plywood some 150 feet away, which basically made the place go nuts because all 3 guys put it in the hole.
God.
So, yeah, I've included the link to the video on the show notes of this, and if you haven't seen it yet, you've got to see it. I was amazed when I saw it, especially when he picks up the puck and throws it down the ice and it goes in that little tiny hole. Because basically Scoro, essentially they put a piece of plywood in front of the net, except for a little hole that's in the bottom, in the center of the thing that you have to shoot the puck into.
Yeah.
And all 3 guys did it. So I was completely floored when he did that.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So on to this week's top 10 for the NCAA. Let's see. North Dakota was a unanimous number 1 choice in the USCHO.com online poll. They got all 50 first place votes because they are 5-0-0 so far this season. So they haven't even lost a game or tied a game yet. Minnesota Duluth sits at number 2. Denver sits at 3. Boston University is at 4. UMass Lowell at 5. Quinnipiac at 6. Notre Dame at 7. Boston College at 8. Minnesota State at 9. And rounding out the top 10, St. Cloud State, who is sitting in the 10th spot. Maine has dropped a little bit in the thing because they earned and I didn't even see the final scores. I believe it was a tie and a loss against Miami of Ohio last weekend. So they've come back down to earth a little bit in Black Bear Nation.
They got to go ahead.
They've got Colgate this weekend, so those are 2. They should be 2 winnable games. So, curious though, speaking of Colgate and the Ivy Leagues, there's 2 teams that are in the top 20, Yale and Harvard, that are in the top 20 poll, neither of which have played a game yet, because the Ivy Leagues play a shorter season than everybody else, or the Ivy League teams. So I'm not sure what's going on with them putting 2 teams that haven't played a single game yet in the top 20, but oh well, it happens every year.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to the KHL Minute now, and you've got an interesting story.
Yes, my KHL Minute for the week this week, and there was quite a bit of. I felt there were more news stories this week than I've seen in recent weeks on the KHL. There are a lot of things to go over and a lot of things that happened, but let it suffice to say that for the last 2 or 3 weeks I've been tuning in, and SKA St. Petersburg has been win. They just haven't lost. They on the 24th, I believe it was, might be the 23rd. Sashayed their way through their 10th consecutive victory after a crushing second period that they played against Slovan who was powerless to respond. Slovan had the lead 1-0, and St. Petersburg came back and scored 5 unanswered goals to win the game 5-1. The Army men rattled off the 5 successive goals in the second period, and then just played prevent defense for the rest of the game in the third and put it away. Their record now is 22-1-4, which if you converted it over to the NHL points would be 67 points for this team.
Wow.
Incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
22-1-4. I don't think I've ever seen a team start like that in the NHL.
And one thing that I've noticed too with that, I looked up that 22-1-4 is an incredible record enough as it is, but the goals for and goals against were just mind-boggling. 118 goals for, 43 goals against on the season.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you see those numbers from college teams.
Yeah.
You don't see that in the NHL or anything like that. I mean, that is just pure domination from that team.
Really, there. And that's Pavel Datsyuk, right, on that team.
Yeah, Datsuk's on that team.
St. Petersburg.
Yep, and Kovalchuk's on that team.
Kovalchuk, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely some talent on that team for sure. So
and there of course is a war going on. This is not my KHL minute, but every week it seems to be the next game Sergei Mozyakin takes over the scoring lead, and then the next game Ilya Kovalchuk back lead, and the next game Mozyakin takes it over again. They are really dueling it out.
Yep. And
it's like each game, the guy takes over again. They're scoring in every game, practically, those guys.
Yep. So yeah, good story. Now I've got a couple of more stories, more of an individual nature. Zach Yuen got his first KHL goal back on the 27th. Actually, that was today.
That is
back
today.
On the 27th. Back earlier today. See, I keep forgetting there's a big time difference between the KHL and us.
Yeah.
So by the time we head into our PM hours, the KHL games are already done for the day. But anyway, he got his first goal today, and that makes him the first Chinese national to score a goal in the KHL. Now, a few weeks ago, we reported that he was the first KHL player to get a point because he got an assist. Well, now he has a goal to go with that assist.
Yeah.
And he's become the first Chinese national to score a goal in the KHL. So, interesting story for him. And another one with some NHL connection, former Carolina Hurricanes player Zach Boychuk got his first KHL goal on the 26th. And that was his first game playing for the Sibir Hockey Club in Siberia. And I did remember seeing the story earlier this week where he did sign with them. Apparently he was unable to secure an NHL job, so he decided to go over there and play over there rather than playing in the American Hockey League. And he got his first NHL goal. First KHL goal. So kudos to him on that one.
Yes.
So that one has a little bit of a local flair to it. Okay, so on to our picks of the week. I will go ahead and start this week with the injuries to the LA Kings goalies. That left their American Hockey League affiliate, Ontario, who is Ontario, California, not Canada, the Ontario Reign, short in the goaltending department. Apparently, the Reign took it as an opportunity to make hockey history. When Jonathan Quick went down and Peter Budaj got called up, the Reign signed 22-year-old Jonah Imu to a PTO contract to back up the remaining goalie, Jack Campbell. Then, when Jeff Zatkoff went down in LA, Campbell got called up, leaving Imu as the only goalie left in Ontario. In a pinch, the Reign brought in Jonah's 46-year-old dad, Dusty, back to back him up in a game versus the San Jose Barracuda this past Saturday, making them the first father-son goalie tandem in pro hockey history. Yeah. Dusty is employed by the Kings as a goaltending development coach, and he made the drive to Ontario just in time for the game to back up his son. And Dusty's most known moment is being a member of Team Japan in the '98 Olympics in Nagano. So in the game this past Saturday, Jonah finished with 26 saves and a 5-4 defeat that ended with a breakaway goal. So the scariest scenario did not happen in that Dusty would have had to play playing that, because I saw pictures and Dusty doesn't look like he's in his the shape that he was in 1998 at all. I mean, he's 46 years old after all. So, but that was kind of interesting to see pictures. They showed pictures. The article that I saw that I've got a link to in the show notes showed pictures of of the 2 jerseys hanging in the locker room with their names above them. One wearing 35, the other one wearing 70, and they got lockers right next to each other. And then they showed pictures of them both on the ice. So it was kind of a neat moment for the Aimu family, and definitely making history in hockey.
Yes,
on that one.
That's a great one. That's a great one. I did read that one.
Yep. And now on to your pick of the week.
My pick of the week is a rather quick one, but my 2 weeks ago, not the last podcast, but the one before, and I actually didn't put it in last week. My grandsons, Aiden and Evan, listen to this podcast each week, and they live in Queens, New York. And they were talking to me a couple weeks ago on the phone, and they said, "Grandpa, why don't you say a shout out to us on the podcast? We'd like to hear that." So I forgot last week, and I got reminded. So I'm wanting to give both my grandsons a shout out and let them know that I love you very much, and we're very thankful to have you as listeners.
Yes,
and we hope you have a good week, and thank you very much for watching the podcast on YouTube. So both you boys take care and have a good week.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you.
So with that pretty much puts an end to this week's show, unless you've got any other stories or anything else you want to talk about.
No, you know, we nailed it on the head. I'm looking forward to this coming week. There's some great games coming up, Wayne. Big games for both of our teams, and of course the opening night tomorrow night in Carolina. So there's a lot of good hockey this week, and we'll have I'm sure quite a few things to report on next week on our podcast.
We sure will. All right, so we'll go ahead and end the show here. Once again, reminder that you can reach us at the www.thehockeynuts.com, and you can email the show at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. You can call the show at 919-960-1718. You can tweet myself. My name's my Twitter handle is @WayneHalley9. Steve is at sball504man. Our Facebook page is at facebook.com/thehockeynuts, and of course, Steve just mentioned we have the YouTube channel up and running, and you can catch us there. And again, the link to the YouTube channel is in the show notes. So until next week, we'll go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll talk to you later, Steve.
Thank you, sir. Have a good weekend, Wayne. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, you too.